Trump just recently signed an executive order to start a trade war with Canada, Mexico, and China. Can you touch on any of the reasons he gave this executive order? Yes, he wants the American economy to collapse. Okay, all jokes aside, we'll get to that in a second. Don't worry. And by a second, I mean right now. Trump has announced new tariffs on China, Canada, and Mexico. You want to know why he's doing this? Because he's secretly in the pocket of Xi.
Chris voted Donald Trump, and contrary to most economists, he thinks that tariffs will mean more money in his pocket.
And if we're making more money on tariffs, that means our taxes, American citizens can pay less taxes.
Will it affect your business?
No, it'll help. It'll help a lot.
How will it help?
I think cost of goods will go down.
Being a Republican is just living in opposite reality. That's it. There's like no other way to analyze, interpret what's going on, okay? Nah, you don't understand. This thing that is literally a regressive universal sales tax because the middle, like the import exporters that are the mediators are going to be paying for the cost of the good at the point of arrival, are going to carry over that cost to the consumers. That is actually going to cut prices somehow. 83% of Trump supporters support the tariffs. What? 83%? Oh, dude, America needs to be studied like a fucking lab rat. America and the American mind, especially the conservative mind, needs to be dissected and examined thoroughly. The amount of worms we would uncover in the brains of the average conservative. Like, this is the exact opposite. What are you saying? What you are describing is the exact opposite of reality. Why? Why are you saying the exact opposite of reality? What is going on? I don't understand it. Who is telling them that this is the good thing? I can't believe I'm the guy sitting here and saying that isolationist trade policies, if not directed towards a competent, competitive domestic manufacturing, is going to simply lead to prices increasing. It's going to lead to prices increasing regardless, but it's also going to lead to prices increasing a lot if there's no domestic manufacturing capabilities for the same exact things, right? Raw materials, for example, do not often have a competitive domestic manufacturing or even sometimes the raw materials necessary. Like if you're looking for, I don't know, trees, for example, wood, okay? We get it from Canada. We get it from Canada. Now, do we have an abundance of wood in this country? Yes, we have a shit ton of forests. We have not destroyed some of our forests because we're just getting it from Canada. Now, we could destroy our forests and not get it from Canada. We could do that. We could like gut our national parks or whatever, right? There's plenty of trees there. But even that would take time. So in this process, in the interim period, as we move to destroy our own natural resources, one, Canada will obviously strike back and add tariffs to our goods that they are purchasing. And also, simultaneously, in the interim period, as like the American wood industry is building up for this to compete with the raw output of the Canadian lumber industry, there would still be a ginormous increase of cost of wood. I don't know if you know this, chat, but wood is very important for building houses, especially after a massive wildfire that destroyed tens of thousands of standing structures, residential homes and businesses alike, which means there will be additional demand for wood. So slapping 25% tariffs on all Canadian goods right after a wildfire happens is choice. It's an interesting choice. Trump supporting companies will likely be granted exemptions from these new tariffs like in his previous term. That's what I suspected as well when he talked about tariffs, because he had done this in the past, that he's going to use tariffs and who gets hit with the tariffs, not like everyone that is purchasing goods from Canada and China, but instead the companies that are aligned with Trump will get exemptions. I don't know if it'll happen this time around. The second reason for the tariffs, I think, is because he wants to destroy income tax. I think he wants to just abolish income tax and make it so, because income tax is one of the few progressive taxation methods we have at our disposal. And even then, there are so many mechanisms for the wealthy to avoid paying a fairer share of their taxes. That's why the effective tax rate for the average American is around what, like 40%? Whereas for the super wealthy, the 1%, it's 0.01%, right? That is a massive, massive disparity. That is in spite of the progressive taxation structure we have for income tax. Now, Donald Trump is openly, I think, trying to change the structure away from income tax in its entirety and only make Americans pay with tariffs. I think that's what's going on. I think the goal here is to reshape our taxation structure to move away from the last progressive taxation structure and eradicate it in its entirety and move directly to tariffs, which would work as a regressive tax, like sales tax. Sales tax is a regressive tax. The way tariffs work in this process would operate like a federal sales tax. You can call it a patriot tax or call it whatever they want to call it. But I'll just say it like this. Considering that this is the initial reaction to the tariffs, I suspect that a lot of people won't recognize when they're paying significantly higher prices. I don't think they'll recognize where it's coming from or why they're paying higher prices. They'll probably still find a way to blame black people or something. They'll say, oh, it's DEI.
Yeah, I think eggs will be cheaper. Right now they're too much. They're like $1 million.
Amazing. Thank you. Oh, the Chamber of Commerce is not happy? Wow, I'm shocked. Statement from the U.S. Chamber. Tariffs are not the answer. Washington, D.C., U.S. Chamber of Commerce, Senior Vice President and Head of International, John Murphy, released the following statement regarding President Trump's announcement that the administration will implement 25% tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and 10% tariffs on China. The president is right to focus on major problems like our broken border and the scourge of fentanyl, but the imposition of tariffs under the IEEPA is unprecedented and won't solve these problems. It will only raise prices for American families and upend supply chains. The chamber will consult with our members, including Main Street businesses across the country impacted by this move, to determine the next steps to prevent economic harm to Americans. We will continue to work with Congress and the administration on solutions to address the fentanyl and border crisis. Yeah, not happy is right. Wasn't Carl Icahn, who was totally on board with Donald Trump? Like, the thing that separated him from Trump was when he put tariffs on steel. He was like, you can't do that. You know, all of these like squishy libs or people who present themselves as liberals, and they're like, you know, obviously right-wing billionaires in general, have no issues with like all of the death and devastation that Trump will cause upon marginalized populations. But the moment that their bottom line is impacted, they're like, whoa, 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 whoa. It's not like that. It's not like that. What's happening? I don't understand why he does this. Can you explain it to me? I'm dumb, lol. I think that there are two reasons why Donald Trump wants to do this. One, because Donald Trump wants to utilize the tariffs as a mechanism of pressure for sectors and industry leaders to basically kiss the ring. You kiss the ring, you don't get hit with tariffs. Because remember, for those of you who still don't understand this, because I've talked about it a million times over, tariffs don't actually work in the way that Trump claims it does, right? Tariffs don't actually work in the way that, maybe to your surprise, the Republican Party has claimed it works. You're not actually putting a tariff on the country, right? You're not putting a tariff on like China, and China is paying for the price of said tariff. The tariff is an entry fee. So it's not actually the Chinese companies that are paying for the tariff. It's actually the American companies that are tasked with importing the goods that are paying the tariff at the point of entry. That's it. So it's actually American manufacturers that will now get a more costly good overall. Because if, let's say, you're getting your t-shirts shipped from China, right? Your garments, you're a garment producer, or the raw materials necessary to produce garments in the United States of America. Let's say you're getting that from China. Now there's a 10% tariff on all Chinese goods, which means you have to pay a 10% entry fee on everything that you purchase, which means automatically the garment manufacturing goods are now 10% more expensive. So when your garment, when you're selling your wares to a factory that is tasked with making t-shirts, at the point of purchase, that second company is basically buying a 10% more expensive product. If a bulk purchase of t-shirts was $100, now it's going to be $110. And when that happens, and that t-shirt manufacturer takes $110 worth of t-shirts now that previously was $100, they are going to increase the price of all of the t-shirts that they're making so that they can carry the cost over to the consumer. So now the product, like the cost of the good necessary to make this product is increased. The cost of the product is increased overall. And every step of the way, from the point of the merchandise, the point of the goods entering the United States, all the way to the point of the consumer purchasing it at a store, the cost of that t-shirt increases every step along the way. And you, as a consumer, end up paying the price. The money made by the tariffs, the additional money, goes to the federal government. Now they have extra money that they can work with. And you, the consumer, are technically subsidizing that money. This is the reason why tariffs can be seen as a federal sales tax. There's also almost always retaliatory tariffs from the other country. And for the record, when tariffs do happen, if there is no competitive domestic manufacturing, of course, trade of that sort of commodity, or all commodities, if all commodities are tariffed, will actually decrease because people will seek out cheaper alternatives. So they will move in the direction of like Vietnam, for example, or another manufacturing hub that isn't China, that will still make the same or similar products without the additional cost associated with it. Now, of course, changing your manufacturing to a different country is an arduous and relatively costly process. So that in and of itself will also yield more expensive goods at the point of purchase. So there's also that issue in the interim. And the retaliatory tariffs, on the other hand, will also yield the same exact results. China will engage in retaliatory tariffs like they did with soybean, right? That's what they did when Donald Trump, in his first administration, engaged in tariffs on steel from China. And China said, okay, we're putting a tariff on soybeans. This ends up harming the American manufacturers because now the Chinese government is looking for alternatives to purchase soybeans from. So they're not going to get it from America. They're going to get it from elsewhere. And at the end of that process, it ends up harming the American manufacturers. And I say this, I criticize all of this for the record, while also maintaining the position that tariffs on particular goods is not necessarily a bad thing. While on the one hand, I want a BYD car, I wish that American manufacturing was interested in making competitive electric vehicles. So while we do actually maintain some understandable trade isolationist policies when it comes to car manufacturing, for example, in an effort to preserve and protect our manufacturing sector and automobile manufacturing, the American manufacturers are also not using this as an opportunity to create better products overall, but instead products that hyper-focus on avoiding CAFE standards and building larger and larger tank-like structures in a country where the Ford F-150 is the most popular vehicle. I considered that to be an annoying nuisance while still maintaining the position that I understand why there is a necessity for some tariffs on some goods. Why? Because the automobile industry in the United States of America is a competent and competitive manufacturing force that already exists. Now it's in a state of disrepair. It's been crippled. It's profit seeking has truly eviscerated this sector as well, just like every other sector. But it still exists. And there are thousands of American laborers, union laborers, good union jobs that are readily available at the assembly line. Ironically enough, tariffs even impact those guys, at least these tariffs that we're talking about. You might say, Hasan, why? They're making the cars in America. That's a F-150, baby. How do tariffs actually impact American manufacturing, even the auto industry? Great question, Hasan. Let me answer, Hasan. A lot of the cars and their parts that are being manufactured, or at least being assembled on assembly plants in the United States of America are actually being manufactured in Canada and, more importantly than Canada, Mexico. So when these tariffs are placed upon Mexico and Canada, as Trump has claimed he's going to do, as he's signed into law as of today, what ends up happening is the engines that are being made in Mexico are going to be more costly. The parts within the manufacturing are going to be costly, which will then increase the cost of goods that are being domestically produced because they're being domestically assembled, but they're still being produced, or at least parts of them are still being produced globally. This is the reality of global trade. This is something that is impossible to avoid. We have designed society in a way where we're maxing out, I guess not necessarily efficiency, but we've designed society in a way where we max out profits. And therefore, goods that even are assembled or manufactured in the United States of America will end up seeing massive cost increases and supply shortages, especially in the interim period. Because a lot of these cars are still very much having their parts manufactured in Mexico. So even if you need a part to fix your car, it's going to be more costly for you. Yeah, the auto supply chain between Canada and the U.S. are extremely integrated. There's some stat that says parts cross the border 8 times prior to final manufacturing. The tariffs are horrible for everyone but the oligarchs. What is this world of statistics? In the United States, 54% of adults have a literacy below a 6th grade level, 20% are below 5th grade level, and 21% are illiterate. What? That is not good, dude. Holy shit. We're going to reach a new record, baby. This is where they get their news. Oh, yeah.
What are you going to do?
Yeah, I saw this. Newsmax host taunts people complaining about migrant deportations of Latinos by eating a taco on air.
Will you come take it out of my ham? I'm going to eat half this plate during the break. Maybe I'll call the ICE hotline. I don't know if I'll have enough time. Sure. All kidding aside, it was actually really good taco. These people broke the law. They broke the law to get here.
I can't say what I think should happen to this person because I would get banned and it would make some of my most vocal haters very elated, very excited. But you can't stop me from thinking it, at least until the Neuralink chips kick in. You know what I mean? And then you're immediately prosecuted for thought crimes. Just ruthlessness, pure cruelty, no politics, just politics of spite, anger, resentment, hatred.